Who is Tim Walz? Trump dodged another bullet. No question about it. There couldn't have been a better pick if you're Trump's team, of course. If you support Donald Trump, there couldn't have been a better pick from Kamala than Tim Walz for VP. It just doubles down on her progressivism. Tim Walz, and I'll prove this here in a second, we'll fill in the gaps. Tim Walz wants to California, Minnesota, and Kamala wants to California, America. Would I call on my radio show compare Walz with Gavin Newsom? You could argue that Walz is worse because Gavin Newsom is in California, which has been for a long time now super progressive, so he's being progressive in a progressive place. Tim Walz is taking not Minnesota values and turning Minnesota into California. Top 3 points about Tim Walz. First, right out of the gate, Tampon Tim. We'll explain that in a minute. Sanctuary state. He wants to make Minnesota a sanctuary. He has indeed passed bills that make Minnesota a sanctuary state for transgender kids. Talk more about that in a minute. And driver's licenses for illegal aliens. What are we talking about? Sprinkle in some George Floyd cult, watch his city burn, and you got Tim Walz. And Kamala looked at that whole package and said, yes, that's my guy. That's who I need. Now, before we go into the details about Tim Walz, I think the biggest story about all this is who she did not choose. And that's the governor of Pennsylvania. And she did not choose him because he's Jewish. This is not me. This is not a right-wing attack. Here's Van Jones saying the exact same thing.
The conservatives, the right wing, the Republicans, they were chewing their fingernails down to the knuckle because they were afraid of a Josh Shapiro. They were afraid of a Mark Kelly. They're not as afraid of this new governor because they think they can define him. So here's the challenge you've got in this party. And people don't want to talk about it. We got to talk about it. On the one hand, you have a lot of young people who are concerned about Gaza. You have a lot of Muslims and Arabs and others. They have not felt seen by the Biden administration. You start hearing that genocide joke. That was building. And so those folks needed to have a candidate that they could feel comfortable with. This helps them in that regard. But you also have anti-Semitism that has gotten marbled into this party. You can be for the Palestinians without being an anti-Jewish bigot, but there are some anti-Jewish bigots out there. And there's some disquiet now, and there has to be. How much of what just happened is caving into some of these darker parts in the party?
Yes, absolutely. I was talking to Mike Rogers the other day. He's running for Senate in Michigan as a Republican. He said there's 300,000 Muslims in Michigan who are registered to vote. Biden won Michigan by 150,000 votes in 2020. Trump won Michigan by only 11,000 votes in 2026. So if the Democrats take off half of the Muslims, again, there's 300,000 of them. If Democrats take off half of them, then it's over. If they take off 10% of them, then that even makes a huge difference. You throw in there, Josh Shapiro the other day tweeted, trans women are women, so the dude can go into your daughter's locker room, that's a big deal. But the fact that there's such, that it's such a big, that the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party is such a big part of the Democratic Party that it must be pandered to. That's the story. Does that make sense? Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, we got a couple of anti-Semites here, and there's some people who like Hamas, but whatever, let's ignore them. No. It's, wow, a large portion of our party is pro-Hamas and anti-Semitic. There's such a big major part, we cannot pick the obvious guy that we should pick for our vice president that would help us win Pennsylvania. Instead, we'll go with Tim Walz. That's the story. So why did she pick him? Tim Walz has a pretty good folksy sounding chic Midwest kind of vibe thing that he can do. It's phony, of course, but they think it will be a good counter to J.D. Vance as the Midwest white guy. It won't work. Rich Lowry put it nicely. He said, Tim Walz is an MSNBC anchor's idea of what a folksy politician is who can appeal to middle America. But to pick Walz and not put Pennsylvania in play is so insane. I got one last point on this. if she picked Shapiro, she probably would have won Pennsylvania. And you don't know, but it would have helped her a lot, and she would have won Pennsylvania, which means that we could play a little, wargaming here of the election map. If Kamala won Pennsylvania, then Trump will need to win Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and either Michigan or Wisconsin. Okay, that's what if the Democrats won Pennsylvania, then it would be a harder road. Trump would need to flip Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and either Michigan or Wisconsin, either one of those. But now Pennsylvania is back in play, which also means Dave McCormick for Senate is back in play too. So maybe we could pick up a Senate seat from this as well. But if Trump wins Pennsylvania, right? Follow this now. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, which he's more likely to do now with Tim Walz on the ticket, if Trump wins Pennsylvania, all he has to do is flip Georgia, that's it. Pennsylvania and Georgia. If Trump wins Pennsylvania and Georgia, he can lose Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona. He can lose all of those. Just got to win Pennsylvania and Georgia. The map is in Trump's favor. Now, there are major election integrity issues with, in particular, those two states, Georgia and Pennsylvania. We will address those. But that aside, those are the two he needs to win. And Kamala just left it open. Okay, let's go into more detail about Walz. Enough of Josh Shapiro, but don't forget that. That's a very important part of the story. Let's talk about Walz for a little bit. First of all, the cover-up. He's as much involved in the cover-up of Joe Biden's failing health as Kamala was. Here's Walz just like July.
Is he fit for office? Do you think he's fit for office?
Yes, fit for office. The president has 3.5 years of delivering for us, going through what we've all been through. None of us are denying. Thursday night was a bad performance. It was a bad hit, if you will, on that. But it doesn't impact what I believe. He's delivering.
Okay, so he's on that cover-up. His nickname's Tampon Tim. Why? He signed a bill that requires tampons to be placed in every school bathroom from 4th through 12th grade. You're like, okay, I guess, I don't know, Minnesota, I guess you can do whatever you want. The person who wrote the bill said that the associated cost of the measure is a wise investment because it will keep students from missing school due to what she calls period poverty. And she says 1 out of every 10 menstruating youth miss school during their menstruating cycle due to lack of access to menstrual products and resources. Okay, I don't know if that's true, but whatever. Did you catch the word there? 1 out of 10 what? 1 out of 10 menstruating youth? The story of this bill is that it also requires tampons to be put in all boys' bathrooms. So the Republicans wanted to add an amendment to add the word female to the bill, like only girls' bathrooms, but it failed in committee. Because the person who wrote the bill said not all students who menstruate are female. Now, she did acknowledge that female students use menstruation products more often than boys. More often, but not all. So it's still important to have them in the boys' bathrooms as well. Okay, that's crazy. That's insane. That's wacky, weird. I don't know what adjective you want to say. You're living on a different planet. That story right there, to me, that's all you need to know. We have more, but that's all you need to know. That is a metaphor. It's real. That actually is not a parable. So that actually did happen, that bill I just told you about. But it's also a metaphor for everything. If you're so disconnected from reality that you think we need to put tampons in the boys' bathroom in school, the sky's the limit for whatever. Like there's nothing that is true. I would love for someone to go up to Tim Walz and hand him a tampon and be like, hey, Tim, I have a young son in the 4th grade. I've never personally used one of these, but do you mind showing me how my son could best use this? I'm not sure how it works exactly. But they're so disconnected from reality, it's unbelievable. All right, I think this is the worst one of all, somewhat related. Minnesota is now a sanctuary state for transgender kids. Walz signed a bill protecting transgender kids in the state. Now, by you and I, when I say protecting them, we think that means by banning their sterilization and mutilation. But no, not in our world. They're protecting, it means allowing them and giving them surgeries and chemicals and all the rest. Horrible. So that's Minnesota under Walz. He signed that bill. He also signed a bill allowing, again, all wanting to be more like California, a bill that allows illegal aliens to have driver's licenses. Here's a clip of that.
It's done.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made driver's license for all the law of the land.
For all? For all? What do you mean driver? Like who wasn't getting driver's licenses? Were black people not getting driver's licenses? Were they not? Hold on. Before that bill, were black and Hispanic people not allowed to have driver's licenses? Who's the for all that now needs to be? Oh, you mean illegal aliens? It's not driver's license for all. It's driver's license for illegal aliens. See the difference? Amazing. So that's been true in California for a while, and now it's true in Minnesota as well. And Kamala wants to California America. There's no better person than, if that's your goal, to California America, there's no better choice, because Newsom won't do it because he wants to be president one day, so he's not going to be Kamala's vice president. It's ridiculous. So if you want a California America, then of course you're going to go to the next best thing, and that would be Minnesota. So there you have it. To me, those are the big ones, and of course George Floyd on top of that. Tim Walz, again, has this folksy thing that he can do. He could put on a camouflage baseball cap for his staged phone call with Kamala. He's a pretty quick-talking guy, more articulate than Kamala, that's for sure. But his policies are just insane. Tim Walz is the governor that Kamala never got to be. Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris, I want to take a break here because we've got some great guests here, but Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris, they both came from the same San Francisco machine, but they went different routes. So Gavin Newsom went mayor of San Francisco, then lieutenant governor and governor, and Kamala went district attorney of San Francisco, then attorney general of the state, and then senator, right? So they went different routes, but they're from the same machine, same time, same everything. So Kamala never got to be governor, right? She just went a different way. She went to be senator, but you can hide when you're a senator, right? You can be like, oh, that wasn't my bill, or I didn't vote for that, or, we got 99 other senators got to work with, blah, blah, blah. You can hide when you're senator, but you can't when you're governor. You got to sign the bill or not sign the bill. You pass it or veto it. So Kamala can hide as a senator. So we don't know how she would govern. Well, now you do. Now you do. Tim Walz. She would govern as Governor Tim Walz has governed. Governor Kamala would be Governor Walz. And what's her worldview? Well, here's Kamala's advice for all of us.
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.